What's good? What it do? What it do? Welcome to the Who Am I Pod. Cheers, man.
Welcome.
Nectar of the gods, as
Boy,
usual.
man. How about Trap Pop?
Oh, what a time! What a time!
Calling you out, bro. People don't appreciate the nectar of the guys, bro.
They don't know what it. They don't know nothing about.
You gotta remind them, bro.
I gotta teach them, bro. Sometimes I gotta learn you something, man.
Let me learn you now.
Welcome to the Who Am I Pod, though. This is episode 52.
Yeah.
Episode 52. We in here. Today we got kind of a different episode. We're gonna drop the music as we usually do. Seem like there's more important stuff to talk about right now. So yeah, all of our talks are gonna be surrounding Jacob Blake and all of the, I guess, events that's unfolded since then. Whether that be the NBA, whether that be I ain't gonna say his name, but white boy running around with a rifle, whatever you want to say, whatever events you can think of unfolding. That's what we're gonna talk about today. Yeah, and that's where we at. Where you want to get started?
So we could start with the Jacob Blake situation, since that's the first one that kind of sparked everything else that came.
Before we start though, can I just say rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman?
Facts.
Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, man. That won't hurt. Don't hurt.
Facts. It's crazy, like how many historically black figures he played in his short career.
It's almost as if he knew, though, right? I mean, obviously he knew, but
yeah,
it's just crazy.
Yeah, for 4 years to battle that and still, work, still add to the catalog, still be a symbol, like he was. That's incredible, man. And the greatest meme going around right now is the one where he was like super skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, everybody was making fun of him and calling him all type of crackheads and stuff, not even knowing that he was going through chemotherapy, not even knowing like how sick he was. It's like, don't judge people because you don't know what type of battles they fighting that they're not telling you about. And that's super real.
Shit. That's a joke that didn't age very well, did it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, well, we'll get back into it. That's just sad, man. That's just sad. Can't get over that one. All right. Well, I ain't mean to cut you off though, but you want to, let's say you want to introduce the whole Jacob Blake story, and we'll kind of just go back and forth from there.
Yeah, I think everybody's familiar with it. Recently, the viral video of a man was seen to be calmly walking back to his car and then getting arrested, and one of the cops saw him get into the car, shot him in the back 7 times. That went viral, obviously, in the turmoil in the state of the nation right now, in the whole Black Lives Matter movement. It just caught fire immediately. This happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, about 40 miles, I believe, from Milwaukee. And it's since revealed that Jacob Blake is paralyzed from the waist down. It's not determined like if that's permanent or not, but a lot of backlashes came from that. A lot of protests, a lot of riots, a lot of controversy has been stemming from that, from people of both sides. It has drawn a lot of support. It has drawn a lot of criticism. There have been boycotts. There have been, again, like I said, riots and protests. And we're kind of just going to break down the event and then everything that stemmed from it, because it is such a polarizing and controversial event.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's just hop right into it. I'll give some of my views on it. It's a tough situation for me because the end result is something that I don't agree with. The situation itself, for the most part of how it was handled, I can't really say, especially not legally, there's anything wrong with what the cops did. But definitely just in the grand scheme of things, like they were just doing their job to a degree. So they arrived on the scene. They were already aware that Jacob Blake had a warrant, so they were going to take him to jail. No matter what that situation was, they just would find him. So they found him there, knew he had a warrant. They showed up. Apparently, there was some type of event going on with 2 women and Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake had his kids in the car. He was driving the car and things of that nature. They got there. They tried to arrest him. From what the reports are saying, they got into some type of scuffle. I think there were 3 cops there. I've been seeing something about a 4th cop somewhere around that area, but the video was only showing 3. the 3 cops, this was not on video, is them supposedly get into altercation, tasing Jacob Blake, roughing him up a little bit. This was all before the video. I'm not sure how at that point he got up and managed to start walking, which is where we seen the video. Walked to the car, opened the door. The cops following with a gun, shot him 7 times in the back. So that's where I kind of that's where I tend to dislike what happened, because again, I said this about the last time with the gentleman that was shot in Atlanta. If it's just me and you, or it's me and 3 other people, whatever the case may be, I like my chances not even being trained to whatever standard cops are. I like my chance to being able to subdue that man without deadly force. So they tased him. I understand. They attempted to get him in a headlock, to put handcuffs on him. None of that worked for some reason, and that's like a fault to the cops to me. I don't understand how all 3 of you men can't get one man in handcuffs safely. If you had to rough him up, that's fine. If you have to put hands on him, if you have to take him to the ground, if you have to tase him, all that stuff is things that's within your power to do. You should be able to accomplish him getting him apprehended without actually using 7 shots from a pistol at close range. Even when he shot him at close range, I didn't really feel that he was a threat. Now, the cop couldn't have known that at the time. There was a knife somewhere in the car. Some people saying it was out of reach of Jacob Blake, so that was not what he was going in there for. There's no real audio. I mean, you can hear, but you can't really hear what Jacob Blake is saying. You can't really hear what the cop is saying to Jacob Blake. So we're missing some of the context in this, but I can't see him being followed to his car and then shot 7 times in the back as being the most reasonable outcome of that situation at that point. To me, it's a lack of training. It's a lack of training by cops. It's a fear. You know, it's a thing that's, they go out to these situations and they're fearful of what's going to happen, and that's reasonable. But unfortunately, that's the job that you picked. There's no boo-hoos for that. There's no boo-hoos for people in the military that go overseas, and they can't just say they're scared, so they don't do their job properly. Pilots can't say they're scared to fly a plane and then crash a plane. Like there's certain jobs where lives are in your hand, and you have to be willing to make the right decisions at all times. If you can't do that, then you can't be a cop. And it's simple as that. The standard is too low to me, and that's why this situation happened.
I feel you, and I agree. I don't condone. I really don't like the end outcome with somebody just getting shot in the back 7 times, especially when you got multiple officers trying to subdue them. But I think at a certain point, we have to start holding people accountable, bro. Like, and it's not the popular thing to say. It's not it kind of goes against our narrative, and it kind of makes you sound like insensitive. But I had the same criticism in the Rayshard Brooks case. It's like the cops are there trying to arrest you. You have an outstanding warrant, one of them being for like felony sexual assault, and you trying to get into a car. There are some disputed facts. So a lot of what I'm going off of, it hasn't been proven. This is just what's being reported in the media. So by all means, correct me in the comments. Let me know if you have a different opinion, but I'm just going off of some of the facts that I've read. If you have that warrant out for your arrest and you're attempting to flee the scene and you have kids in the back of your car, you can't really fault the officer for escalating the situation. If they tried all these non-lethal means of trying to wrestle you down, I think it was 2 cops pulled their taser to try to do all that, and they still were unsuccessful. In a cop's mind, when you're in an altercation like that, yes, us on the outside looking in have the benefit of the doubt of seeing the whole picture, being in slow motion to say this is the wrong decision. But if you've been in a fight, you're not really thinking straight. Especially if it's been disputed that he had a knife the whole time. Like in the video, they were telling him, like, drop the knife. So that's something that they'll have to go to court to prove. Did he have the knife the whole time? Was it just in the vehicle? So it's like, if this person had a weapon or they had the means to hurt the officer and they're going into an unknown environment where they could have another weapon, they could have a gun, they could be attempting to flee the scene, I can see how that situation got escalated. I don't like seeing black men get shot. I don't like seeing black men get killed by the police, but at the same time, we have to hold people accountable and say, once you resist arrest, you kind of waive the right to play the victim. because like you escalated that. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people have a problem accepting the fact like, oh, I don't think this was right, or I don't think this was justified. But I think you said it before in the previous podcast. Your day to argue that is in court. You getting arrested, that's not your time to argue, because you resisting arrest is a crime. If you don't think that any of that is justified, go to court and deal with that. But once you start to fight with the cops, once you start to fight back, you run the risk of getting shot. You run the risk of getting assaulted. You run the risk of, you know, getting into an altercation with the cops. And I don't think that we can just look at this and throw out all blame and put it all on the cops. I just don't think that that's a fair assessment, and that's an honest assessment of what happened in this case.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. Jacob Blake wasn't doing right. Like, this situation is a lot different from a lot of other situations we've seen, because a lot of the situations that we've seen going before this were situations where the cops are showing up. They don't necessarily know who this person is. They're trying to apprehend them. Things happen, and a black man's ended up dead, right? That's kind of the gist of it. In this situation, they fully intended to get to that scene and take him to jail. Like that was their plan. They were planning to come there, arrest him, take him to jail based off of that warrant that he had. Maybe several warrants. I'm not sure. It's kind of conflicting information. So I understand that. And I don't put all the blame on the cops. Which is why I say for the most part of that thing, had they ended at taser, had it ended at a little bit of some punches, maybe some kicks, or I don't really know what to say about that. Had it ended about them taking to a ground and put him in a headlock, had it ended at that point and he was apprehended and taken to jail, I don't even think we're talking about this right now. I just don't. I don't think that we're talking about what this situation at all. And I don't think a lot of other things that's unfolding that we'll talk about later would happen either. Because that to me is acceptable, at least to me. At least to me, if you're resisting arrest, if you potentially have a weapon, there's things that the cops are going to have to do. They're going to have to put hands on you too. They're going to have to try to harm you too, because at that point you might be trying to harm them. So just as a person, I can see that. I can get behind that. I'm not against that part. The part I'm against, to me, is just to letting loose of that pistol so easily. Like it's too much. It's too much for me. It's too much for me to see him, follow him with that gun and tell him to stop. I understand he was resisting arrest. I understand that. But if what we know to be true is that before all this happened, they were trying to apprehend him with three grown men were trying to apprehend one man and couldn't do that. To me, that's on them. That's a lack of training. They have to be able to do that. It's one person. To me, that's unacceptable. To me, as a cop, that's when your means of your last resort is now being elevated because of your lack of competency. You lack the ability to do your job properly, so now you have to go to a deadly force type of thing. If there were other cops there, it would have been different. Maybe so. Maybe they would have been able to arrest them. I don't know what happened when they initially got there. I don't know what type of talks they had. I don't know if they tried to de-escalate the situation. I'm not sure about any of that. I can't say. It's not out there for me to read. But from what I know right now, to me, it's a lack of competency by those cops that led to a death. It's in combination with resisting arrest, 100%. But those two things in combination is what led to not a death, but at least 7 shots to the back of a man.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's their job, though. They exhausted all their efforts. And there's a video showing them tussling with Jacob Blake in another camera angle. There is video of that. They tried that. At what point do we say, yo, y'all, now we can't do their job? Now you are they just supposed to give up? Like, I don't understand the alternative. Like, they're trying the non-lethal ways. They tried like wrestling them to the ground. They tried the tasers. They tried to apprehend them that way. If a person still is resisting and they're successful in that resisting, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to just be like, all right, you got the best of us. All right, here, you free to go. Better luck next time? No, like that's not the role of the police. Their job is to apprehend you. And if as you resist and as you start to fight them off and as you're successful in that, you're a threat now. You're becoming increasingly a threat. We don't know your capabilities. We can't subdue you with these non-lethal forces. You won't comply with that. So how else are they supposed to do their job? We can't look back knowing all the facts, knowing that there was no gun, knowing all of this. And because he survived, say like, okay, they should have done that. It's so easy to do that. But in the heat of the moment, the cops can't reasonably have all of these facts. They can't reasonably assume that somebody who has felonies out there, who is resisting arrest, who won't be subdued with the taser, doesn't have a weapon in the car or isn't really willing to flee the scene or possibly hit them with the car. Like, how are they to know all of these things in the heat of the moment? I can't get mad at the cops for taking that approach because they exhausted every other effort that they had. And at some point, we can't keep blaming the cops when bad things like this happen, especially when they do their job the right way. They're trying to do it with non-lethal force. To say that, oh, y'all should have been able to do that. Hey, if they don't, their job doesn't stop. They still have to apprehend this person. This person still had a felony. He still had the police called on him because they wanted him to leave the premises and he had took some keys. It's actually disputed that car that he was getting into wasn't even his car with the kids in the back. That wasn't even his. It was his wife's car, and that's the keys that he took. So if that comes out again in the court of law, who's to say that, what are they supposed to do? Just let him go? Especially with felony sex assault charges. And then I think one of them was against like a minor. You're just going to let them drive away with kids? Come on, bro. Like we have to look at this objectively. It doesn't sound good. It's not easy to say. It's not easy. It's not an easy pill to swallow, but we have to start taking some accountability, because every time we skew these cases to fit our narrative, we set the precedent of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And we have to start holding ourselves accountable, because if we don't hold ourselves accountable, we embolden and we empower these people that we'll talk about in the next situation to take the law into their own hands, because we continually ask for the cops to do less, to do less, to do less. And then we empower this silent majority to come in and step in and do more and fill that gap that we're allowing that we're asking the police to take. And that's not what we want. That's not what we want. That doesn't get anybody, that gets people killed. So we have to start taking some accountability. If you want to argue that arrest, if you want to fight that case, do that in a court of law. Don't give them a reason to shoot you. And I know it sounds like some cop out. It sounds like some Uncle Tom, some cool shit to say, but like, bro, don't resist. It's that simple. It's that simple. Like, yo, it don't sound cool. It don't fit the narrative, but don't do it. You don't get shot if you don't resist.
I don't disagree with you at all. And I want to be clear about that. I don't disagree with you at all. Because I think that the criticism that's going on around this case from our community is it's not in the right place. There is criticism to be given to me. That's my only difference between our argument. There is criticism to give. I'm still on the side of when you go to those non-lethal methods, those should work. I feel confident saying that those should work if you are competent enough to make those work. That's why I'm saying it's a lack of training. It's a lack of competence. That's where the criticism is at. If you're telling me that was an unlawful shooting, you can argue that in court, but I can tell you right now, your defense wouldn't be great. Like, your argument would not be great if you go to court with that and say, like, that was an unlawful shooting. It's just not going to happen, right? It's just they're not going to jail for this. They could possibly lose their job. That's a potential thing. They might get some derogatory statements on a record. Something like that might happen. But really, we should just be pushing for the training portion of it. That's where the criticism should be in. We should be pushing for them to be able to actually use those non-lethal methods so that they can actually arrest somebody. Because yes, if you try them, that's cool, but clearly you're not doing them at a high degree because it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Like, why did it have to go to that point? Your job is to de-escalate the situation, get somebody that you consider a criminal off the streets, and you can't do that without using your gun. That's, to me, is a failure on something. Whether it be the system, whether it be the way they train, whether it be the men in themselves, something ain't working right if you can't do that. Your job is not to use that gun. Your job is to use that gun at the last possible resort. And I understand that was their last possible resort at that point. They tried it. And it didn't work. My criticism is make it work. That might sound like not fair. That might sound rude to the cops or anything. You can say that, but make it work. That's my criticism. That non-lethal stuff, that those headlocks, those taken to the ground, those tasers, the pepper sprays, make those work. Make those work. It'll be better for you and it'll be better for your community as well. And that's my criticism.
I feel you. And I'm not necessarily arguing against that. I'm just arguing the fact that, like, people see this situation and automatically conflate it with every other situation that they see. And then
It's
they
different.
find it, they find another video and was like, oh, well, he wasn't complying and he got, hands put on him, or they did this. And like, you know what I mean? And we have to look at every situation one-on-one. We can't just take this situation conflated with the George Floyd situation, conflated with the Rayshard Brooks situation, and just say this is like all the same. Like, no, it's not. Every situation is going to be different. Every situation is going to have its own set of facts, is going to have their own perspectives, and we have to be able to have an open and honest dialogue about each and every one of them. Nobody is perfect. Everybody should be able to withstand that criticism, whether that be the police, whether that be the person who gets shot or resist, or who unlawfully gets killed. We have to be able to criticize the whole argument to figure out what exactly happened, what is the best way forward. Because when we start to emotionally look at these situations and we ignore the facts, we end up in situations like a Trayvon Martin, in a Mike Brown case, where nobody gets arrested, nobody gets prosecuted, because we have an unrealistic expectation of what should happen in the law, in the eye of justice. And we have to be mindful of that. We have to read up on the laws. We have to read up on what is actually possible. What are we actually asking for? Are we asking for their arrest? Are we asking for prosecution? What exact charges? What exactly did they do wrong? The moment you can have that, the moment you can do that research and articulate what you want, instead of just saying cops are racist or this wouldn't have happened if he was a white man, that's okay. You can say that, you can have that opinion. But when it comes to situations as serious as this, when it comes to protests and riots, when people get killed that spawn off of this, you better know what you're talking about. Because you emotionally being sad or being mad about this, that isn't enough for somebody to lose their life over some misinformation. And that's what gets me so mad about it, is because situations like these get thrown to the media, and then we get manipulated, and we go out on the front lines, and we go out and protest, and we lose our lives for something that we're not really informed on. Mm-hmm. And we empower people on both sides to go to war and clash, and then those people lose their lives as well, who had nothing to do with the original situation because of ignorance. And I'm tired of ignorance. And ignorance spreads so quickly without anybody doing their research and fact checking these things, and then people lose their lives. That is unnecessary. That is unacceptable. And I'm tired of that. I hear you.
No, I hear you. No, I'm not. I'm with you 100%. Like it's watching people be manipulated over something like this is sad. I'm not saying there shouldn't be outrage. I'm not saying that if you want to protest, you can protest, but don't go out there and put yourself in dangerous situations over something like that. That's not the way to do it. There are ways to do it, and that's what you're saying. There are ways for us to make sure that we can get change. We got leverage in certain aspects of America. Like, we can use that leverage to make some type of change, and I'll talk about that with the NBA a little bit later, about how you boycott and how you protest and how you do something. You got to have leverage in the fight to negotiate. You can't negotiate with people that put it frankly, they don't care about you. You can't negotiate with people like that. You can't negotiate when you don't have anything to offer in the negotiation. You starting from a leg down when you should be starting with a leg up. It's not beneficial to our community, but to be doing this the way we are doing it. So, but more leadership would be great. More leadership would be great going forward, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, in this situation, cops not going to jail, man. If that's what the outrage is about, they're not going to jail. Like, just be okay with that now, and then move on to what a win is actually. What look at the situation and see what a win you can actually get for your community is, and then go that route. But if the idea of rioting and looting and anything like that is in your mind, take that out of your mind first, because that's just going to take away from the conversation. We don't need to be doing that. We do need to be protesting if that's how you feel. Protesting, there's ways to do that properly. We do need to be negotiating. We do need to be boycotting if that's how you feel. Like, do things that are uncomfortable, but don't do things that are illegal. That's kind of what we need to be doing. So at least that's what I think. But who am I?
Yeah, and just because somebody has a differing opinion, if somebody doesn't necessarily agree with everything that you say, be open to that conversation. Don't just shut them down, call them a coon, call them a sellout, call them a racist. Like, these situations are complex. There's so many different details. There's so many different nuances. Like, be open to have that conversation, whether you disagree with them or agree with them or not. That's how we progress. That's how we make change, and that's how we make the right changes.
Yeah. I think that's all I got on that one. Well said. Shit on both sides. I don't think we disagree though. I don't think on this. I don't think we necessarily disagree at all.
No. I think we might, depending on how, judging on what you said earlier, I think we definitely going to disagree on this
Possibly
next topic.
Possibly.
But
let me get some more Necker this guys, and then we'll.
Let me get some more his Jesus juice. I'm talking about that spirit. Get some of them Holy Spirits in me.
The nappy headed ones. the nappy
Right.
the nappy headed ones. All right. Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about. I can never say his name correctly, but Kyle Rittenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about him very briefly. For those that don't know, for one, look up his name. If you don't know, you probably been living under a rock anyway. But this is I'm gonna have trouble explaining this topic without using my bias. But I'm gonna try to do my best to explain this topic, and I'll be brief so that I don't give too much bias away. But so Kyle Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old boy, white male. He drove to Wisconsin, a little over the state lines from where he actually lives. In order to join a militia. I'm using that as what they say it is. It's militia in order to protect businesses and other things that's in those areas of where the protests were going on and riots or looting, if you will, maybe. So he went there to join that. He also is an EMT, if I'm not mistaken, or he's some type of certified EMT. So he was there trying to help people in general. Didn't actually end up that way. It ended up in some type of altercation with him and another white male. He ended up shooting that male in the head, one shot, and he was dead. He got into another altercation with another man while he was fleeing. It looks to me that self-defense might be something that you might say would be reasonable here. Excuse me. I'm having a hard time seeing that one. I'm having a hard time seeing the self-defense argument. The reason being is because, yeah, we can say his motives might have been pure. I'm not even 100% sold on that. I'm not sure his motives were pure on that. I look at it, no matter how you look at it, it's probably murder at the least. It's probably, even if you want to say like involuntary manslaughter or something like that, sure. He killed a man he shouldn't have been killed. He shouldn't even have been carrying a gun. We know that. He's 17. The legal limit is 18. He shouldn't have the gun in his possession at all. That's one. Two, even if I don't really think that his life was in danger, especially with the first person that he shot. The second person you can probably say that he killed probably could say that maybe he was pursuing him in a dangerous manner. Some people argue that he had a gun. There is a video of this. I didn't see a gun in that video when he was shooting the second and third person he shot. I think he ended up shooting a total of 4 people. It might have been 3, but I'm 3. Yeah, so he shot a total of 3 people. 2 of those people died. And one of those people got his arm pretty much, I don't want to say blown off. I'm not sure exactly, but his arm was shot and it was pretty deadly. But I can't see the self-defense argument in this because, again, he shouldn't have been there. I've seen the police chief say that, hey, if these people weren't be there, then nobody would be dead. It's like, yeah, but if you would have told that to the same militia that you was trying to help out, then nobody would have died as well. So you can't just use that as against the protesters because they don't fit your bill. You only using people that fit your category that you like, people that are considering trying to help you out. So you cool with them actually traveling around on the streets, but you're not cool with the protesters traveling around the street, right? Because the protesters are just the initial thing. The reaction is the militia. So you okay with the reaction is what you're telling me. You okay with the reaction of males and women and things of that nature running around with assault rifles and pistols and things of that nature, armed to the teeth to try to protect businesses. You okay with that, even though they are still breaking curfew just as the protesters are, but you rather give it the blame to the protesters for being there in the first place? I don't really understand the concept of that. Maybe you can explain it.
So before I take this stand, because I know this podcast, especially if you know me, it might be hard to listen to of the positions and the stances I'm taking. I just want to make it very clear. I'm not justifying or glorifying these people. I'm just looking at the circumstances and giving an objective opinion. So I'm not saying that I agree that Kyle Rittenhouse is an American patriot and he is the best of us and we should all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, look at the facts. look at the law, and let's make honest decisions right now. So I do believe this is a case of self-defense. I do think that he shouldn't have possessed the weapon. I think that's just straight up. There's no defense on that. I think he should be found guilty of that because he is 17. The legal age to carry that is 18, and he shouldn't have had that weapon. But let's break down the situation. So the first situation, he got into it with a man by the name of Joseph Rosenbaum, and that's the first man that he killed. He shot, I believe, 5 times, and then one of them went to his head, and he ultimately died. So in the video of that altercation, all of this is described in the actual report, the arrest complaint, and I think it's called the probable cause statement. All of that is outlined in this document. Everybody can Google that, download that document, and they can also look up the videos cited in that document. So the first thing is happening. He's being chased. And this is from the prosecutor, the people that are charging him with this crime. They all say the story the way I'm about to say it. So I don't want you to seem like I'm being biased or I'm trying to paint this scenario. If you read the statement, this is exactly how they describe it. He's being chased by a group of people. He's running away with his weapon. The man by the name of Joseph, he is running after him and he's throwing something at him and what's described as a plastic bag. But if you look at the video, you know, something is in that plastic bag. Nobody has said what is in there, but you could tell something was in there. Some people say it was a Molotov. Some people say it was a brick, but he threw something at Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle then runs and he hits a garage or like a car parking lot. Somebody with a pistol in the group that's chasing him shows the pistol and shoots a shot before Kyle shoots anything. Kyle then turns around and then Joseph tries to take Kyle's gun from him. And all of this is in the report, and this is how they say it. The first shot goes into the ground. Some say that it was a warning shot. Some say it was an accidental discharge, but the first shot does not hit Joseph. It is only then after Joseph tries to take his weapon again is he shot again. And you can see 2 sets of shots from Kyle Rittenhouse. And then after he gets shot, Joseph falls to the ground. And then one of the people that originally interviewed Kyle, one of the videos that's going around of that interview with Kyle, he actually takes off his shirt and try to render aid. But once he sees that there's a bullet wound to the head, he knows that this person is about to die. Kyle then gets on the phone, calls one of his friends and say, yo, I just killed somebody. Then continues to run again, and he runs down the street, and then the group of people chase him again. And he's running again, running away. People then go up. One person goes up to him and swings on him and actually knocks his hat off. Hats fall to the ground. All this is on video. Then another person goes up and they run behind him. They chasing him. And you can hear people on the video saying like, what did he do? What did he do? They say he just shot him. And he's like, get his ass, get him. Everybody get his ass. So he's running, hearing all this, and then he falls. Another person, I believe his name is Anthony Huber. And I might get them too confused. I think Anthony Huber is the one that died. He goes up to him and he actually hits him with a skateboard. And then another person goes up and then tries to kick him, but then they miss. And he shoots at the person that tries to kick him, and then that person runs away. And then the person that hits him with the skateboard, he hits him with the skateboard, tries to take his gun away again, and then he shoots him once in the chest, and then that person falls. Then Gage, I want to say Grosskreutz, or I might be saying his name wrong, but he actually came up and he had a pistol, and he actually was aiming the pistol at Kyle Rittenhouse and tried to take his weapon away, and then Kyle shot him in the arm, and that's the picture that you see with the dude with the pistol, and his arm is shot. So a lot happened, and all of this is caught on video, and you can see these different altercations. I don't know what originally stemmed to escalate the situation to where everybody is chasing Kyle. I don't know if he provoked anything. That is yet to be proven. And again, that's why we go to the court of law. But when you look at the video, when you look at the evidence, when you listen to the testimony, because there were witnesses and they have given testimony and all that is cited in his report, Kyle was not the aggressor. At every situation, he was running away. People were trying to disarm him. There was pistols around, either pointed at him or shot in the air. He does not know that they don't mean him any harm. At every given point, they're trying to disarm him. You can argue that that's the legal thing to do, is disarm a minor with a rifle that shouldn't have one. That needs to be argued in a court of law. But in a moment, can you reasonably see how somebody who has a weapon, who is getting hit in the head with a skateboard, who's hearing pistol shots either aimed at him or aimed around him, understands why he is in fear for his life and he has to shoot the people that are attacking him. I think that is the grounds for self-defense that I think he will argue. And I think of these, I believe he was charged with 6 counts, 2 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, 1 count of first-degree reckless homicide, 1 count of attempt first-degree intentional homicide, 1 count of first-degree intentional homicide, and then 1 count of possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. The only one that I believe will stick after all the evidence is reviewed is the possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. All of these different intentional homicides or those reckless homicides, I believe he will take the self-defense argument, and I think he has a good case for that.
So you don't think that the endangerment will stick either?
Well, the endangerment ones are just saying that he shot in the direction of somebody. Mm-hmm. So the one endangerment is the person I was actually interviewing, or the guy that took his shirt off to render aid to the first person, Joseph Rosenbaum, just because when he shot Joseph and he shot off, I think it was like 5 or 6 shots. The person that in that first one, I forget his name, excuse me for forgetting his name, but he was in the vicinity as those shots were going off. So that's 1 count of endangerment. The second count of recklessly endangering safety is the person that came up and kicked him while he was down and he shot in his direction. Mm-hmm. And that's the second count of reckless endangering safety. So and again, I'm no lawyer, so I don't want to qualify this. I'm not just saying I'm qualified to speak on this, but in an event where you're being chased, there are people with guns around you and you're being attacked at all sides. I don't think a reasonable person can be expected to gauge this person is a threat versus the one with the gun when you have a mob of people chasing you saying, get his ass, take his gun, and you're getting hit with skateboards and people are trying to kick you. I don't think that you can say that, oh, he recklessly endangered my safety when you were the one that provoked that action by trying to kick him in the head. That's my understanding of it.
So legally, I don't think I could disagree with you. I can't make an argument against that based off of the facts that we got, right? Like I just can't, right? I don't know what happened in between that time, but the video starting and this time that the actual report started when you could read it. I don't know what happened. I know that he broke off from his group at some point. He was out there by himself at some point, walking around the protesters. Some people say that he was out there trying to render aid to people that need it. He is an EMT. That's true. Some people say he was a little bit antagonizing people just by walking around, with the rifle. Everybody out there knows that he's on the other side of this kind of conversation. So him walking around could be viewed as somebody antagonized just in general, just kind of, wearing your rifle, just kind of walking around. I could see why that would be a little bit antagonizing to the protesters as well. But let's take a step back here and talk about the interaction we seen with him and the cops then. Can we start there?
Okay.
So how do you feel about that? So there's a clear difference in the way that the cops were treating the militia, as some people will call it, versus the protesters. Although they both should have been accused of the same crime, which would have been breaking curfew. Is that right or wrong?
I think technically that's right, but they weren't enforcing a curfew nobody got charged with breaking curfew.
Mm-hmm, right. But there was a curfew.
Right.
So they should have been pushing everybody off the street the same way, no matter who they were. No matter what, if I'm with you or against you, everybody in there should be pushed off the street.
Yeah, but that's not realistic.
It's not realistic, but that's what they were there to do.
Yeah.
For what other reason would the cops be there for? For
riot control, to protect assets, to make sure that people don't get hurt.
So then what's the point of a curfew? If you're not going to enforce it.
I'm not saying that they're right for not enforcing it. I'm just saying that the goal is to allow for peaceful protests, but hold people accountable when they start to do illegal activity, such as riots, such as loot, such as burn things down. I think that the media has made it to the point where cops are afraid to do their jobs as go home, because now that's going to be spun as, the cops are trying to silence us and they're violating our freedom.
I agree.
Symbol. And so it's they're not enforcing everybody go home. It's bruh, y'all don't need to burn stuff down. Y'all don't need to set fire to these buildings. Y'all don't need to loot. Y'all don't need to destroy the city, because that's what's been happening. And that's not to say that all protesters are responsible for that. I'm not saying that the protesters are wrong, or the people that peacefully protest are the same people that agitate, riot, and burn stuff down. But that isn't okay. That isn't okay. A distinction needs to be made between peacefully protesting and people that are rioting, looting, and burning stuff down. And the cop's job is to make sure to apprehend, stop, and hold people accountable that choose to do that. There are several businesses being burned down, furniture stores, car lots that are burned down that had nothing to do with the shooting of Jacob Blake. So the cops are there to make sure that that doesn't happen, or if it does, to catch the people that are responsible for it.
Right. But my issue with that is I feel that the cops in the interactions that I've seen with that militia is inappropriate, to say the least, or unprofessional, whatever you want to say. But they are empowering them to go out here and be vigilantes. That's what's happening. You empowering them. That's what the media. That's even some parts of the media. You're empowering them to go do things that they shouldn't be out there doing. It's not their job to do. If they want to walk around with rifles, if they want to walk around with pistols, that's their job. That's their job. But as soon as they go out into crowds and antagonize people, or as soon as they try to stand on you with riot shields and push people away too, now they wild, and that's not their job. That's not their part to do. They're committing assault. You might be doing your job, but they would be committing assault doing the same thing that you're trying to do, by trying to push people in a certain way, by trying to hinder what other protesters are doing. That's an amendment thing. That's not something that they should be able to be doing. So by you handing out water and telling them, hey, I like what you out here doing. Hey, we're going to push them down here because you can handle them. Like things like that. You are telling them basically to be able to commit a crime. You're trying to give them the power to be able to do so. That's unacceptable to me. That's the part that I can't see. There's a clear distinction in how they are treating that militia in the terms of how they treating the actual protesters. That's unacceptable. They both out there for their own agenda. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. They're both out there for their own agendas. If you could say they are protecting whatever they want to, that's fine. That's not. It surely wasn't Kyle Rittenhouse any buildings that he actually owned. It surely wasn't his place. So you can call him here all you want, but he drove across lines to go and join into this. He wanted to be there. That's his fault. He should never have been there. That had nothing to do with him. We talked about just a second ago, I put blame on protesters, or not even protesters, but people that are out there looting and rioting that have nothing to do with actual Jacob Blake. I put blame on them. Also put blame on people that's driving across country lines to go join a militia, which I consider a gang, to do what? To do the police job, to help out the police, that's fine. But they shouldn't. They let them do their jobs. Let them do the thing. And to the cops, hold them accountable for shit like that. Hold them accountable. They can't be out there doing the same thing you doing. It's not how it works. It's just not. They're not trained. They don't have a badge. They have a rifle because they're legally. And I'm all the way for that. I'm all the way for them having weapons. I'm all the way for that. As soon as you are actually antagonizing situations like this to happen as cops when you letting them do things what they want, when you supporting them, when you telling them certain things, you are actually supporting that type of action. So when something like that happens, those deaths are on your hands too, because you could have handled that situation a little bit differently. That's kind of where I stand in the whole situation.
I think you make a lot of good points. The only one I would push back on is the video where the dude said, the cops told us we're going to push them your way. There isn't no evidence of that.
Right.
That's only hearsay. So you can't put that on the cops.
Yeah.
Them handing out water and them saying we appreciate y'all for being out here, that is nothing more than people. And again, this isn't to glorify these people. I'm just looking at it from an objective standpoint, because if we got to be honest about rights, we got to be honest about the law, we got to be honest about what we can do. And once we start to switch it to fit a narrative, we start to unknowingly take away the freedoms that we have as Americans. And once we agree to take them away because it fits an unfair or unpopular situation, we lose those rights. And I'm against that. So to first come back that point where you're saying like these people are out there agitating, I don't see it as that, because there is a such thing as far as property rights. Just the way people have rights to express themselves and they have the right to protest, I think that's fine. I think everybody should exercise that. There is also a right to protect your property. There is things called property rights. And I believe in the Constitution, the whole mindset behind that is you trade your time, your energy for money to accumulate money and to accumulate property. So if somebody was to come in and burn that down, you have the right to defend that. Now, if you see cops out here not being able to defend it, because as you see in these days of the protests, cops can't be everywhere. A group of people can get together over here and they have to control that to protect these assets. A group of people can get together over here and they can't be everywhere. So when you're seeing car dealerships get burned down, furniture stores get burned down, innocent buildings, again, that have nothing to do with the situation, get burned down, there will be people who want to defend that property. It's not always going to be the exact owners of that property, but it will be people who believe in standing up against people who are going to destroy the city. And that's what I was talking about earlier when you misconstrue the facts and you make it seem like anybody who is against your narrative is a racist, is a bigot. You empower these people to come together to say, no, we're doing the right thing. We're going to stand together as a militia, as they say, and protect these businesses, protect this property so that any of these looters and these rioters, they don't destroy it. And again, I want to make a clear distinction. We're not talking about the protesters. I'm not talking about anybody peacefully protesting. But just like I was saying before, when you talk about resisting arrest and all of the problems that come with that, the moment you start rioting, throwing stuff at cops, burning stuff down, you can't then go back and play the victim when people stand up to you for protecting the same property that you're trying to destroy. So I will say that I can't get mad at people trying to protect property and trying to stop people from burning stuff down, because if you come and try to burn down my business, if you come down and trying to burn down my house or my furniture store that I spent my whole life trying to build up and I did that from the mud, I don't want you to destroy that because you mad at somebody else. So I would want somebody to defend my stuff. I would try to defend my stuff. And I think that that needs to be taken into account. Yes, it's easy to look at these situations to say, yo, they shouldn't have been there. That's not right. But people have the right to defend property. And people don't have the right to go and burn stuff down because they're mad. And we have to be honest about that. It's not popular to say, it's not popular to think. I'm not criticizing peaceful protesters, but once you start burning stuff down and tearing up the city, that's not right. And when somebody chooses to stand up against you, that's going to happen. That's the natural progression of things. You can't throw the rock and then get mad when somebody blocks it and throws one back at you. That's just the natural progression of things. So we have to hold everybody accountable on both sides. And I can't just say you shouldn't have been there defending the property because the people shouldn't be there burning stuff down.
Agreed.
And when cops interact with people that's there to defend, obviously they're not going to have that same level of apprehension against them than people that may be the ones that could go and start a fire or could go burn something down. There is going to be a difference of interactions between them.
So you don't feel there's any type of unprofessionalism with the cops in the way they are supporting this militia?
They gave them water. They gave them water and we said, we appreciate y'all for being out here.
Right.
I don't see how that's unfair.
I don't see any videos of them giving water to protesters and saying they appreciate them being out there either.
You saying that you don't see that does not mean it doesn't happen. And we can't judge one video and say that represents the whole thing. They literally gave him some water and say, yo, we appreciate y'all for being out here. Homie is out there literally giving aid to people on both sides, not just people defending. He literally came down there as an EMT to help the whole situation. For you to say that, yo, that's not fair for you to say we appreciate y'all for being out here. Come on, bro. Let's be real.
Let's be real then. But we can honestly give an assumption that never happened to the protesters, though. If you're saying let's be real, then let's be real. We talking about what's only facts, but we know based off of what we know about this situation, there's no way that happened.
No,
there's no way that happened.
Assumption. That's your assumption. But you can't put that on there. That's your assumption. Just because you haven't seen it.
That's an educated assumption right there.
But it is still an assumption. I'm talking about what we see. And I'm judging just on what we see. I can't speak on their interactions with the protesters. I can only speak on those who are antagonizing them that they're fighting with. Again, that's not what their interaction with the peaceful protesters. That's not who I'm talking about. But if I see them giving water to people that's saying, hey, we're out here trying to defend property and we're here giving aid to anybody that needs it, I'm not mad at them for saying we appreciate you for being out there. I can't speak to what I didn't see. I can only speak to what I did see. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
So I'm just at a loss because I understand we can say that he's out there giving EMTA, right? Like that to me is an assumption. That he went there.
There is a video. There is literally a video. He's getting interviewed and somebody's walking around. He's like, hey, I'm a qualified EMD. How can I help you? And he literally walks away from the interview to give aid. That's what we see.
So you tell me by that we can determine that he went out there to only do that.
I didn't say his intentions. I never said his intentions. You asked me, is it unfair for the police to support this militia and their interactions with the militia as opposed to the protests? I'm saying I do not see their interactions with the peaceful protests, so I can't say it's unfair, but I don't think that it's wrong for them to give water and say, we appreciate you for being out here, for people who are on camera saying we're trying to defend property and we're trying to render aid to anybody that needs it. I'm not going to assume they're not doing that for the other side because I don't see that.
Which is perfectly fine, but that's my thing about Kyle. At what point did he leave the group that's out there in front of businesses, actually defending these businesses, to go into the crowd? And what were the intentions then? We can't speak to the intentions, but we know what happened in the end, right?
Yeah, and I'm not arguing that his intentions are pure. I never said he was a pure intentioned person. He is a hero. I never said that. I'm saying that the instances that he's being charged for, even in the documents, in the probable cause statement, all say he was running away. He was being provoked. They were trying to take his weapon. He was being swung on. He was being hit with a skateboard. He was being fired at on 2 separate occasions where pistols were being fired in his vicinity. I can't fault him for using the self-defense doctrine to defend himself with his weapon because he had it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not judging his intentions. These charges are not based on his intentions if he's going to claim self-defense. There is more evidence to say that he was defending himself in these situations than there is to say that he is going out there with the
intent. And the prosecution will have to actually prove his intentions in order to convict him of murder.
Right. And because if he uses the self-defense doctrine, there is a presumption that he is using the means to defend himself. So it's on the prosecution to prove that he's trying to kill these people. In all of the videos, it's starting with him running away. He doesn't even have a duty to flee in Wisconsin. He doesn't have to run away. He doesn't have to prove that. But in all videos and all evidence that we've seen, and again, this is just what I've seen. If new evidence comes out, I'm subject to change my opinion, but I can only speak on what I've seen. He's running away in every instance being attacked. He turns around and shoots people, calls somebody, say, oh, I just killed somebody, and runs away again. And then he goes around, he gets attacked, he falls to the ground, gets hit with a skateboard. They try to stomp on him. Somebody runs up with a gun. He shoots 2 people and runs away again. Mm-hmm. So I can't say what his intentions are. I can only judge on those set of facts. I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm not saying that he did the right thing, but in the evidence shown by the letter of the law, I believe he has a good case for self-defense.
That's fair. I won't argue against that then, because I would agree too. I would agree he probably does. Now, I just want to be clear for people that want to call him some type of true patriot and hero and things like that. You are talking about somebody that was actively committing a crime.
Right.
You are talking about somebody that was committing a crime during that time. We can definitely say that he should have been there. That's something that it depends on how you feel about that. But one thing we can surely say is he should have never had a gun.
Right.
He should have never had a gun, and then none of this would have happened anyway, because it was against the law for him to have a gun. Right. So you can call him your hero. That's cool. That's what you want to do. I know y'all like to pull up history of people when they get into these type of altercations, when they get into crimes, things like that. You should look up your boy before you call him a hero too. Then look up your boy and see what type of stuff he been getting into in his short time living here on Earth, 17 years, and he out there beating women. So if that's your hero, then that's your hero. But let it be known he was out there actively committing a crime. Whether you think that what he actually did was just self-defense or anything like that, that's to be proven in court. But he was a minimum committing a crime out there. So just as you look at the protesters and things, or not the protesters, but the rioters and things like that, they were actually out there committing a crime. So was he. He was out there committing crimes too. So have at it.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Like, I've never said, like, I never want to say, like, oh, he's completely innocent. He's an angel. His intentions are pure. That's not my demeanor at all. I actually have quite the difference. Like, I don't respect him for being there in the first place. I don't think he should have been there. I don't think that is any of his business. I don't think he should have had that weapon. And if he wouldn't have been there, if he wouldn't have been in these situations, people wouldn't be dead at this point. But That's my personal opinions. I'm able to have a personal opinion about this situation, but still look at it objectively and say, legally, I can't justifiably say that he's guilty of these crimes. because I don't want somebody's prejudice, somebody's discriminatory view of me as a black man to have that same weight in court to say, well, I don't like what you did. I don't agree with what you did. So I'll bend the law to make sure that you get prosecuted because that's how I feel. And that's what we need to be mindful of. We can have our own personal arguments of it, but we have to be honest when it comes to the law, because if you look at the law and who systematically is being more oppressed, and when you see these laws being skewed, it falls on people of color. So once we start to justify it and say, yes, it needs to happen for this white person, then we can no longer say that it shouldn't happen to us. And I just want to make sure that we have that in mind when we're looking at the law and we're looking at the legal system.
I appreciate that, Jake. Yeah, I appreciate that, Jake. Yeah. It's a nasty situation all around. But that's the thing, legally, and that's why I'm in a tough spot, because legally I can't disagree with you. It's just that's the way it's written, right? So he has a good defense for self-defense. I also do agree that a good prosecutor may be able to process him for murder.
Yeah, it's possible.
A good prosecutor may say, why the hell did you go from your home and your mom drove your ass all the way out here to carry around a gun and do this and that? A prosecutor, I can see convincing the jury that, hey, this dude didn't have good intentions to come here. So I can see both sides of it. I'm still, I don't appreciate him being there at all. I don't appreciate the way the cops had treated him. In comparison to how I feel that, and this is, I'm going to say that I feel that they probably treated the protesters. And that's kind of where I stand.
And I agree. And I don't mean to keep high, because I agree. Like, we agree. Like, personally, we both agree. We all feel the same way. And I just want to make it clear. I'm just trying to say, when you accuse people of doing stuff, you got to be careful, right? I can have my own personal opinions. Like, me personally, I don't like that they out here giving water, like you said, to the militia, and like, yo, we appreciate y'all for being out here, but they may not give it to the other side. But I can't accuse them of doing that without the facts. I can only judge the facts by what I see and give an opinion on that when I speak on other people. I could have my own personal feelings, but only person I can really speak on is myself, knowing all the facts. And if I give facts, I can give a opinion on those set of facts, but I can't start accusing people of, you did this or you should have done that, if I don't have all the information, regardless of my personal feelings. And that's what I'm trying to convey on this episode. Like, I'm not saying, yo, I totally stand. No. And you have to give people that same option to say, yo, maybe they think like that, but they have a different view of this system. So that's the beauty of having this dialogue. And that's the importance of having this dialogue, that everybody doesn't just fit in a box. We have to allow for this dialogue. We have to allow for the scrutiny of all of these facts so that we can have the most objective opinion.
Sure.
I'm just going to let you know, when we move into this next topic, I am biased. So this may not be the most objective opinion for me.
You watched what I told you to watch yesterday?
Yeah. The Colin.
Nah, Jason Whitlock.
Oh, no, I ain't watched the Jason. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fault.
I'm assuming that means, well, since I told you didn't watch, I'm assuming you don't agree with that then.
Well, I didn't watch. I'm sorry. I literally forgot it.
All right. No, it's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, so cutting back in. So our next topic is basically about the NBA. The NBA actually going through with a boycott, which was a big deal. It actually like stemmed like a domino effect, if you would, to the MLB, the WNBA, soccer. There was a lot of things that just they decided they weren't going to play because of this. I do commend them for that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that in the opening statements of this, but I do want to say that it is a big deal. So going forward from that, they did negotiate with the league. They had some meetings. The Lakers and the Clippers were the only two teams that were actually willing to actually cancel the whole season if they didn't get what they wanted. It was reported that LeBron reached out to Obama. The Bucks were talking to lawmakers and attorney generals in Milwaukee. So they were doing the right things to me. They were talking to people that, hey, we might not be the best educated person to have this conversation, but we're going to use our leverage in this and get information from outside sources that can actually do this well. So they did that. They reached out. They negotiated with the NBA and the management, the general managers, things of that nature. They negotiate with them a deal, which basically leads out, and I'll pull that up here in a second. I'll put that on the screen because I don't want to misrepresent what they actually got. But it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And I feel like it was the right way to negotiate. So what do you think? What is your initial thoughts about the NBA actually boycotting and then the actual domino effect and how it actually turned out? Because now they're back to play. They started playing yesterday. They're back to play now. What do you think of it?
Personally, I think that it's powerful for players to kind of take their power, because there is no league without the players. Right. Straight up. If we don't play, then y'all don't have no league. Y'all stand to lose. They could stand to lose millions. They could stand, the team owners or governors, whatever they want to call it, they stand to lose billions, right? So I think that it's powerful to say we recognize the power we have. We know what's important to us, and we'll stand up and say we're not going to play anymore. I think that in itself is powerful. I think, and something that I do agree with LeBron on is you have to be very careful when doing that, because you should have a specific end goal. Okay, what do I want with this boycott? What do I want? Is it just to stop and raise awareness about this case? Is it, I think that we need more justice, or I think we can add to what needs to be done in the community? I think that needs to be clearly communicated when you do something like a boycott. So same thing, I think, with like protests. Like, I'm okay with, protest all you want. You have that right, but there should be an end goal. Like Jay-Z says, an actionable item. And if they got those actionable items that they wanted, I think that that's dope. And I think that that should be the example instead of just doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm going to pull that up and tell y'all exactly what they negotiate here shortly. But I think I can't really fault anybody in this for the way they feel, right? So NBA players, you made a good point earlier, and you said that, hey, some of these guys are too uninformed to actually do this, to actually be the people that we need to actually lead this charge. I understand that. But they doing a damn good job of using their power properly. They are. That's just how I feel. They're using a damn good job. They to me don't have a dog in the fight. They just don't. They're rich. They at some point we have seen people, especially, we got a member on the Bucks now. I don't remember exactly his name, but was a victim of, I guess you could say, police abuse. Depending on how you look at it, there's a situation, there's a video out there. You can go watch the whole thing. He did sue and get a settlement from the state. So not saying that means that they're guilty. I'm just saying that he did actually go through some type of police involvement. So we got people that's actually lived through this and actually know what it's like to be in these organizations, these communities, these places where they feel that they're victims. They feel that they're victims of police brutality. They feel they're victims of the judicial system, and they're doing a good job of saying, "Hey, I made it to this point, and I made it out of that struggle." But I'm not going to forget about the people that are still in that struggle, the people that aren't basketball players, that don't have the talent that I have, that got to the point that I have, that don't have the means or the money that I have. And they're speaking out for those people. I find nothing wrong with that. If your argument is that they are uninformed about this, that's one thing, right? That's one thing. You may be right about that. But they are using their means of their fame to reach out to very influential people. Like President Obama. He was the president of the United States. If anybody could tell you some things, it might be President Obama, an attorney general in Milwaukee. If there's somebody to talk to, it's probably that person, right? The league owners. If there's somebody to negotiate with, then that might be a person that you want to negotiate with. These are all good things. This is how you use your leverage. This is how you negotiate. I talked about that earlier in this episode. If you want to negotiate, you have to have leverage. You have to have something that they want. The NBA cannot play if they don't stand up. This is a perfect example of how to boycott. This is exactly how you do it, right? If you boycott a company, right? We let's take, for example, Gucci. Like we wanted to boycott Gucci maybe 2-3 years ago. I'm not sure how long ago it was. Gucci not fronting on that. Like they not tripping about that. You can boycott them if you want, but it's not really hurting their pockets like you think it should. Because why? Because we're not really together like we should be. The NBA is showing us that, hey, in order to properly boycott, in order to properly negotiate, for one, the first thing that you got to do is you got to all be in agreement. It wasn't at first it was the Magic came out. They were like, whoa, what's going on? The Bucks said, hey, we ain't coming out. Max said, all right, fuck, we ain't coming out either. The Lakers supposed to play later that day. The Lakers said, hey, they talked to the Blazers and said, hey, we ain't coming out either. OKC was supposed to play with Rockets. OKC, Chris Paul went to talk to Russ. He said, yo, we not doing that. It was in agreement. They all came together for one goal, one common goal. That really, if anything, it doesn't do anything for them personally. It doesn't. They lost money. The NBA lost money. That's the platform. Draymond Green came out and said that same thing. Like, hey, we have to support our platform. He's right. That is the biggest platform for Black America right now, if you ask me. So, yeah, they do have to support that platform because it's been doing a good job of actually supporting them. But we still don't. We can still hold them accountable. We can still hold the owners accountable. We haven't heard a lot of NBA owners say a lot of things. We haven't heard a lot of NFL owners say a lot of things. We haven't heard a lot of MLB owners say a lot of things. We haven't. They're powerful people in their communities. They are. They bring in a lot of revenue. They bring in a lot of money for those organizations, and not only that, but the states themselves. If you think that the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers don't bring a lot of money into California, you're mistaken. They do. They bring in a lot of money to this to the state of California. So use that leverage. But the first thing that you got to do is join together. That's how you do it. So we can protest, but we got people on this side saying this. We got people on this side. We have a lack of leadership in the Black community. That doesn't exist in the NBA is what they're saying. They're saying, hey, somebody saying something, you can go all the way back to when they started playing with Pat Beverly, a team on a rival team saying, hey, if LeBron James say we hooping, we out here. They have leadership. Chris Paul has been out in the front lines all this time. George Hill's been a good person that we might not have heard of had he not been in the bubble. Like, these are people that I'm not saying they're the best people to listen to when it comes to actually making laws and the actual changes that we need, but they setting a damn good example of how we can move forward.
I agree with the sentiment, but where I disagree is we gotta talk of specifics. And that's if you could think about like what I've been talking about this whole episode, it's we agree on the idea, right? But how they say is the devil's in the details. When you talk about the specifics and talk about the actual things that they're saying, when that is misinformed, I think that's where the criticism comes from. Like, I agree that it's powerful. Like I said in the beginning, I think it's powerful to stand together to say, hey, we're going to not play. We're going to put the pressure on you. And during the time that you should have been airing these games, we want you to talk about this issue. And I think that was a great spotlight that they had on that. But once you start to put out certain messages, once you start to tweet out certain things, and once you start to put out a narrative that in itself isn't informed, that's when I start to disagree. And that's when my criticism comes in. So, for example, and I'm a huge LeBron critic. And I think I'm such a LeBron critic because I know how powerful he is. I know the potential he has, and I know how important he is to our community. And I think because of that, he's been given the platform. Like you said, what Pat Beverly said, if LeBron say we playing, that's kind of his role, but it's also his responsibility to be informed. And if he isn't informed, not to really speak on it. So for him to come out and keep saying like Black people are scared, no, bro, no, that is problematic. When you come out and say like Black people are scared, you're sending out a negative tone into our community to other people to say like, yo, we're scared. I'm not scared, bro. Don't put that on me. I'm not scared. That type of rhetoric is divisive. I don't know what the Jacob Blake situation, it seemed like he was just calm. I don't know. They could have did all these other things. They could have just tried all these non-lethal means. Like what happened to a taser? Why couldn't they have wrestled him? Well, they tried that. But you didn't see that. You weren't informed. You didn't know all the facts of the case. So you spoke on it without getting those facts. But because his platform is so big, once he starts to speak on these things as misinformed, it then creates a snowball effect that he can't control. People's only source of information will be LeBron. And for him to go out there and spread misinformation and to spread divisive rhetoric, that in itself is problematic. And I think that's where the criticism comes from. Yes, the sentiment is good. His heart is in the right place. But I'm talking about the facts here. When you tweet out, Black people are scared of the cops, or this is the problem with the cops, without having the facts, what does that do? That doesn't bring people together. That divides. That tells you to pick a side. Either the cops are bad or they're not. And if you don't think that they're bad, then you're against us. That's problematic. That's divisive. When you say, yo, Black people are scared and we don't know if we go outside thinking, yo, these cops just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they have this idea of, oh, I'm just going to take it out on the next Black person I see. How does that make the people who are cops feel, the black people who are cops. That's divisive rhetoric. And I don't think that's helpful to the situation. All that does is spread more panic. That creates more feelings on both sides to feel like, yo, I have to pick a side. When it shouldn't be that. When you're on that pedestal, when you're on that position of power where your goal should be to try to bring things together, to kind of bring a solution to the problem. When you just throw more fuel on that fire and just amplify it, I don't like that. And again, I agree with the sentiment. I like the power and I like you coming together to boycott and show your power. But if all you're going to do with that moment is to highlight the bad and not create any type of solution, I don't agree with that. And I think that in itself is problematic, and we have to start holding him accountable for when he does stuff like that.
I agree with you mostly to that very, very last part, right? So if he is uninformed, I don't necessarily think I don't think we should necessarily blindly follow anybody. And I said that several times, right? So LeBron James is not perfect. LeBron James is not have all the information that we need. There are people that we have that have that information that we can follow, and we've highlighted those people several times on this podcast. The part that I disagree on is he spread negativity without a solution, right? To me, I can look at several things that he's done in his past where I feel like he has moved to those solutions. He has moved to try to help out certain communities. He opened up the I Promise School, right? Whether the negotiation that happened right now, there's several things he's done. But okay, I'll go ahead.
Don't have enough. That don't have. We got to keep it on this because we can't conflate that. We can't conflate that to what he's saying right now. I'm talking about specifically right now. Yeah. Okay,
so right now, then let's talk about right now. This is what they negotiated. I just put it up right now. So this is what they negotiated. These are commitments from the NBA and the NBPA. So to resume payoff. So this is what they said. Hey, you have to do this, or we're not coming back. To me, these are very good points. There's three very big ones, and there's some other little ones in there. And I'll let you read those yourself. But to establish a social justice coalition featuring reps from players, coaches, and governors. That's a big point, especially that last one, which is governors. Convert team arenas into voting locations for 2020 general elections. Another huge one. Create advertising sports and playoff games that promote civic engagement in local national elections. It's a big deal. These are things that there's not going to be. Most people are going to be watching NBA right now, right? Like there's a little bit of MLB going on. They're having a problem with COVID. The football isn't back yet. This is what people are watching right now on TV. To put those things on front stage, which they have been doing all along, is a big deal. And again, he was one of the people in the front line of this. Mm-hmm. He was the guy. He's always been the guy. He was the guy that called Obama and said, "Yo, Obama, like help me out with this. These are big deals." Like I said, we criticizing him, and we should hold our leaders accountable. Like Martin Luther King was criticized in no way or shape or form. I'm putting him on the same platform. I'm just saying, like Malcolm X was criticized. Like we have leaders in our community that were criticized. I understand that, and we should continue to do that. But we also got to take those and say, like, I can appreciate the win, though. I can appreciate the effort. I can appreciate you trying. You're doing what you can. You are a millionaire, and maybe some people report billionaire. He has millions and millions of dollars. He don't really got a dog in this fight. He don't have to go out there and speak for me. He don't got to go out there and try to negotiate things for me. They did that, and LeBron was at the front line of that, and I think we should support that. I'm not saying to not criticize him because I think you agree with that. If anything, I'm the one that does that, right? I'm the one that sees one or two things I don't like somebody, and I'm like, yeah, I ain't fucking with this person ever again, right? I do that with Kanye all the time, which I think Kanye is a good dude. After long talks with you, I can see that. So I don't think that you dislike LeBron, right? And you've said that in the past things, like it's not that you dislike him, but you're gonna criticize him because he does have that platform. He does have that big platform. He does have that his hand on the pulse of the black community. So he should do better. I understand that. I'm just saying I think he's doing a good job. That's me personally.
No, and I don't. I'm not saying like he shouldn't say anything. I'm not saying that he should shut up. I just think that when you say we are scared as black people, and then you say, okay, we need to turn the arena into a voting booth. What does that do? You send out a emotional, divisive tweet, or you send out this emotional press conference saying that black people are scared, black people are victims, and it's like that does nothing. That does nothing. What is the real change?
I think it's the same thing that politicians do. The same. If you watch the RNC or the DNC, it's the same exact thing they do. They use fear to go get people to vote in their way.
But that doesn't make it right, though.
It's not right.
It doesn't make it right, and I don't
appreciate it.
I don't want to conflate to say like it's only wrong when LeBron does it, but we're talking about this specific scenario, so that's when I'll talk about. If you want to debate how wrong the RNC is or how wrong the DNC is, we could do that. But when you send out a message to propagate fear, to propagate division, I don't understand how that is acceptable and then just say, yo, we need to vote. Because we have the means to vote. We don't need the NBA to vote. It helps. That greatly helps. You're using that platform to talk about the importance of voting. But without that, people still have the ability to vote. You have yet to address that division that you just caused when you talk about black people being scared and, the cops should have done this. Well, what do you have to say about what could they have done better? What can you offer? Can you put money towards them getting trained better? Can you put more money towards their surveillance? Can you put more money into lobbying for the ending of qualified immunity? Those are real solutions to the problems when you talk about police, not just voting. And that's what I don't like, because you're sending out these emotional messages. You're propping up, you're getting people emotional. And yes, we shouldn't just be getting our news from LeBron, but people do. Whether you want to agree with it or not, that's what it is, especially young people, especially people that aren't taking the time to do the same research that we're doing. So you got to be held accountable for when you say stuff like that. Just like when I say stuff and I'm wrong, when I defend Kanye and he go out and do something crazy, I have to sit up here and say, you know what? I was wrong about that. I'm not going to keep defending him. But we can't just say, yo, I appreciate his sentiment and then ignore the effects and ignore the toxicity of his statements when he says stuff like that. Because if that was somebody on the other foot, if that was somebody's criticism of the black community, if that was somebody's criticism of him, it wouldn't be okay. So we can't pick and choose when to be victims and just to say, yo, we're a victim. I could just create that divisiveness and it's okay because other people do that. When we claim to be fighting those same other people, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right. And it seems self-serving. And I don't think that I can still criticize the message and not hate the messenger. I'm not saying I hate LeBron. I'm not saying that he shouldn't do that. He has an important role to fill. He has great power, but you have to be held accountable if you're going to have that role or that position.
But are we only going to criticize, or are we going to admit that he's doing he's trying his best?
I'm okay, but that's the thing, though.
His best is good.
But that's the thing, though. Like, what is? I'm not for the token victories. We're past that. What is trying your best to get us in a situation like this?
I feel like, and I'm only speaking of. I'm gonna try to keep it here.
Right.
I feel like these are things of real substance. Those things I just spoke of. I don't see how those are token or they are made any less of. Those are real things that they negotiated, and it hopefully it'll come out a big thing. It's just the same as the Jay-Z thing. Was the Jay-Z thing with NFL? Was it a token experience? Was it just, or was it something that he had with real substance? Which one is it?
Right, but Jay-Z didn't boycott, though. Jay-Z didn't boycott. You boycotted for the shooting of Jacob Blake, and then you say we want more voting stations. But then you say that police are the problem, black men are scared.
Yeah.
You say, oh, he's doing his best and he's trying to get more people to vote, but you're neglecting the negative effects of that rhetoric, bro. That rhetoric is what inspires people like Kyle Rittenhouse to take up their gun and go defend property. That's the real life effect of that type of rhetoric, bro. You empower those type of people because you alienate to say, if you support the cops, you're a racist, you're a bigot. And it's like, yo, I'm not. I just don't think I should allow people to burn down buildings. And you empower those people to come together to say, hey, bro, I don't think that what we're doing is wrong, but we can't say anything because if we do, then powers like LeBron are going to call us racist. So then you cause them to come together and create militias to go out and counter protest because you think that cops shouldn't do enough. So they feel like their hands are tied. This is the result of that type of rhetoric. And that's not to say this is all on LeBron, but we have to be able to recognize that type of rhetoric, whether that's coming from the president, whether that's coming from a politician, whether that's coming from LeBron, whether that's coming from me, that is problematic rhetoric. And I'm okay with saying, yo, he's doing his best, but we still got to call that out. We can't just ignore the effects of that and just say, hey, good for trying, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't care about your intentions. What are the effects? And we're seeing the effects play out in real life. And those effects do not enter the bubble. Those effects do not affect people in LeBron. It won't affect him. It's going to affect real people out on the street. And when you continue to spew this divisive talk, it leads to situations like the Kyle Rittenhouse. And that's what I don't like. And that's why I'm not saying I don't like LeBron. I'm saying that type of mentality, that type of rhetoric has those type of effects. And we have to call that out. And we can't keep saying, oh, that's good because his heart is in the right place. No, because people die when you think like that. And that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I disagree. And the only reason why is because I feel that he's doing his best to create things of real substance. And that's me. If those things pan out, if those three statements that I made earlier, they really pan out and they go on to do some really good in the community, he has to. That's good.
I'm not talking about what he negotiated. We're talking about what he's saying. So like, right. I think in just for people, because I think we cut out the wrong part. So this conversation started with you asking me about Jason Whitlock's criticism of LeBron, where Jason Whitlock was saying that LeBron is a bigot and he is spewing the same rhetoric of that the same people that he's claiming to go against. So I'm more on the sense of I'm arguing with LeBron's speech. You're talking about what the NBA negotiated. So we're not disagreeing. Mm-hmm. You're falling back to say, oh, I think what the NBA negotiated was powerful. And I agree with that. I'm not saying what they negotiated with and what they boycotted for to get those things is not beneficial. I'm not saying that at all. That is good, and I'm happy they got that accomplished. That's why I said in the beginning, I think that the boycott was a powerful statement. I'm talking about the rhetoric of condemning police officers, saying that black people are scared and saying that type of divisive rhetoric. That's what I'm on the side of. I'm not arguing about talking about voting. And that's why I keep saying you offering the solutions by saying voting and then saying that black people are scared and that police are the problem. Those don't relate. Mm-hmm. Those are two different issues. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think that it's okay to criticize and throw this hatred out here on one side and then just offer another solution, because two things can happen at the same time. And I think that they don't relate to each other. So I don't think one is a solution to the other.
Well, I ain't mad at that. No, I can't be mad at that. I guess I just I don't know. Maybe I don't view them as that dangerous as we say, but you make a good point. It probably is because again, I may not get all my news and my political stuff from LeBron James, but a lot of people do. So I can see that being a problem.
I would say, and again, me and Kevin will talk about these things not for like as personal attacks between us, but to show the benefits of bringing together two different ideas, two different like sets of facts, and then seeing like how one can come together and have those ideas, but still be able to talk about them cordially. I would just say, if you can, break out of your own bubble. Like wherever you get your news from, if it's primarily CNN, CBS, MSNBC, turn on Fox News every once in a while and see what they're talking about. See how they're coming to their conclusions, and see if you're more conservative, tune into the other side without that like liberal this and Republican it. See about how these two ideas of thought are thinking, because if you just trapped in your own echo chamber, seeing how information is flowing on your side of the political spectrum, you don't see the effects or how that emboldens another side, and how one side only sees one aspect of it. Some of those effects from that one side bleed on to the other side, which creates another problem. And in order to see the full picture, is necessary for us to look at both sides with an objective view. So I'm not necessarily saying that. And again, my personal beliefs are contrary to some things that I think factually. But it's important for us all to look at the whole picture so that we don't get bogged down and fall victim to our biases or our logical fallacies.
It's real. No. Can't agree. Can't disagree. Can't disagree. So,
but who am I? I'm scared to take off my do-rag because my hairline start right here. So like I have no end. I'm no body to judge. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you probably should talk to LeBron. He probably
no. Have you seen LeBron head? No, I'm good, bro.
Listen, it came back for a while.
Then his headband pushed it back, and then AD was like, "Hey, bro, your hair." Yo, Harry, bro. Get it back, dog.
Chill out, bro. Nah, man. Let's get to these positive shouts real quick though.
Yeah.
Because mine's really fast. Because I pretty much said all I was gonna say about the subject, but my positive shout goes to the NBA. I do feel like they made the mold of how you negotiate, how you boycott, how you actually get some change in your communities. If you're going to boycott, I'll say it again. If you're going to boycott, you need to have a plan of action of what you want. You can't just boycott and say, well, social injustice is ridiculous, right? Or police brutality is crazy, all right? You have to come with some type of a plan. You have to come with something that negotiate. You don't go to the car dealership and just say, hey, like, I want a car at a good price. What is a good price? Be specific in what you want. Don't just tell people about a general statement about we want this, we want that. Be specific. I want this. I want more voting statements. I want the governors. I want the owners. I want the players to actually join in a coalition to actually make a better community for the communities that we so much put our heart and souls into. We want something like that. This is what we want. So shout out to them for actually having leaders, and shout out to Chris Paul, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook was out there on the front lines. George Hill was out there on the front lines. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of them, but shout out to those guys for having a voice and using that to actually do some good within their communities. That's real talk for them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that's super important. I think that display, I think we're living through historic times, and I think that will go down when we talk about 2020, when we talk about this movement. I think that will go down as a monumental moment in this fight for racial equality.
Yeah.
So I want to, it's not necessarily like a personal shout out, but kind of more over expanding shout out. So the City First Bank and Broadway Federal Bank, they're going to combine to become the first $1 billion lender for a majority Black controlled, federally insured commercial lender. And I think that's dope. I think it is monumental as far as when we talk about all of these prior injustices, all of these resources, and all of these opportunities that were denied to previous generations. Moves like this kind of give us a brighter way forward. So when we have a $1 billion lender that's commercially insured, federally insured, then we have more opportunities for loans, and not just loans for like cars or houses, but for small businesses. And we don't have to worry about not necessarily going to a loan and being racially profiled, or because we come from a different zip code, we won't get these access to wealth. But if we have a majority Black owned bank that has the necessary resources to kind of build up our community, I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm all for not playing a victim and doing something. So if you are unhappy with the houses in your community, if you're unhappy with the businesses in your community, go and build better houses, go and build better businesses. And I think that we can no longer, with situations like this, with moves like this, we can no longer say, hey, I can't get a loan from a bank. At some point, hey, we got federally insured banks that are Black owned that want to look out, that have historically taken care of low income Black communities. We have that as a resource now. So I think that it's time to hold ourselves accountable, time to start taking meaningful action to do what I think our generation's job is to do. And that's to build up our communities, to take back and, live out the dreams that so many of us before have died for. So for these banks, these predominantly Black owned banks and Black controlled banks to come together and take it to that next level, I think is a huge asset that we have in our community. And I think it should be applauded.
No, that's a great one. That's a great one. It's going to get to the point where we can't use that excuse no more. That ain't gonna be an excuse that you can use if you want to member to the Black community. The opportunity is there. You got to go out there and take it. It might not be as easy as you want it to be, but it's out there now. They get there. So yeah, shout out to them for sure. And shout out to my fantasy football team because it's fire. I just wanted everybody to know that. So if y'all need some advice on how to draft, hit me up because I'm here. But who am I? You know what I'm saying? Just who am I?
Hey man, shout out to the doctor that did Safari and Tiger hairline restoration surgery, because I'm about to take a loan on this Black old bank and I'm coming to you now.
I'm on my way.
I'm on my way. I just secured the loan and we coming through.
I don't think that's what you're supposed to be securing the bag for. But more power to you. Yeah, more power to you.
Hey, don't they say you gotta invest in yourself, bro? I'm invested.
You ain't lying, bro. You're not wrong. I told you last week about how you was just wrong. Your methods are a little different than what I would probably go with. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
appreciate y'all for joining us. Y'all take it easy. Catch y'all next week on the Who Am I podcast.
Y'all have a good one.
Who am I? The girls them sugar.